This video has been made possible by ExpressVPN. Find out how you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by visiting expressvpn.com/ASpec or clicking the link in the description box below. As of the 3.0 update as well as Nemesis, the spycraft system has been introduced into Stellaris, and this means that we have now intel, we got operations, as well as a slew of other things that we can dive into from a mechanics point of view, because there is quite a lot of stuff to discuss here. This is a key part of the diplomacy and information game when it comes to the game, and it's brand new, and it is something you should understand. Let's dive into the mechanics behind intelligence and see what the system is made of. As with any system within Stellaris, everything starts on the Empire creation window, and that's exactly where we are right now. And we have a couple of things that we actually need to take a look at in order to understand what is going on and what is important. So I've created this little empire called the Intergalactic Information Agency with a couple of traits that will make this empire a lot more useful for the spy game. First of all, we are a representative democracy. Doesn't really matter for this stuff. There is no authority that actually adds any additional bonuses to the spycraft system. Same thing applies to the ethics. There are no real ethics that change the way things really progress when it comes to the spycraft system, except for the xenophile ethics, because they will get additional envoys. And envoys is really what it's all about when it comes to spies. The more envoys you have, the more operations you can do with multiple empires. So having a large amount of envoys is very useful. Plus, envoys can also be used within the galactic community and maybe later on with the Empire as well, but that is of course part of Nemesis. Still though, where the real flavor lies here is with the civics, specifically cutthroat politics, which will increase code breaking by 1, and we will go into what code breaking actually means shortly, and Shadow Council, which increases the maximum infiltration level of your empire by 10. Basically what this means is that you can do more stuff, but we will dive into that once again very shortly. Let's dive into the game and see what is actually going on with this particular setup and what we can do here with these mechanics. So the spy game actually starts right at first contact with another empire. As you can see, we are about 5 years into the game and we have made first contact with another species. Now, at the start, we will get an incoming transmission upon first contact. And basically, we'll have a couple options because, yes, they now actually matter. And these are actually kind of important because they will allow another empire to have a bigger effect on you than you would expect. We could say that we are delighted to meet them, which increases their opinion of you. We could go down the middle ground and basically have a 33% spy network growth malice from them, which means it's more difficult for them to spy on us, or we do the same thing with the spy network, but also it reduces the opinion of them by -30. And this is generally roleplay, but overall, if you want to go down the good route, it's usually a good idea to go down either we are delighted to meet you, or make sure that they cannot spy on us. And considering the AI can be a little bit iffy, I do recommend to make sure you do not have them spy on you. So there's a couple options we can do here right away after first contact. We got all of these things up here, and we got all of our envoys. It looks like this is a federation as well, which is rather curious, but it doesn't really matter. What does matter, however, is that there are multiple empires here that we can send our spy masters to. So we click on the diplomacy window here and we start building a spy network with one of our many envoys that we have available. In this particular case, we have 3. So we're going to go ahead and send an envoy over there to build a spy network. We're going to do the same thing over here, and we're going to do the same thing over here as well. So now these guys will start building a spy network. And as you can immediately see, a spy network has now been established. This is a first big step in our illustrious spy career because it's going to be really important for us to maintain this, and also when it comes for information warfare. So let's continue on a little bit more, and then we can take a look at what the spy screen looks like. So now that we have deployed our spy masters to these systems over here, we will start to learn more about what they're up to. For instance, if we go to these fine people over here, we go to the espionage screen, we will see that we currently have an infiltration level of 13/70. That means that we can get a total of 70 infiltration level in total. And that translates to all these wonderful little operations that we can do within this empire. Also, you will see that their relative encryption is pedestrian. This has to do with the fact that we've gotten ourselves a bonus to our decryption modifier. The higher our decryption modifier, the easier it will be for us to counter alien empires and decryption level, basically. They're electronic countermeasures, if you will. And that basically translates as that we get additional infiltration levels, etc. And we also will grow things a lot quicker. Now there's this handy dandy little drop down on the top right here that will illustrate to us what the current level of infiltration is in some of these places. As you can see here, we have 20 here, we have 20 here, and we have 30 over here. Let's swiftly move on towards the number 30 and then take a look at the rest of the UI here. As you can see, we have this little screen on the top right that is a generalized information overview of what we know of this empire. What is their government like? What kind of authority do they have? What kind of ethics? Where is their capital located? What level is their ruler? Then we got their diplomacy, and their diplomacy is actually really important because it allows us to see what casus belli they have, i.e. who they can attack, for which reason, etc., which rivalries they have, because at the start of the game we don't know this, and most importantly, federations. So we don't know at this point in time who their friends are, who their enemies are, and what it will do if we would attack one of these empires. So at this point in time, if they have, for instance, a defensive pact or a federation, which we already know they do because of the way their empires are laid out, it would be a bad idea. But right now we don't have that information yet, so we're going to leave that as it is. Then there's their military intelligence, basically how strong their fleets are, how far their science is, and how good their economy is as well. And that is a generalized overview, and we want to make sure that we get as much information as possible. And we can do that by doing an operation called Gather Information. Now, gathering information will bring up this little menu here, which basically shows us a little operation which will cost us 400 energy, which we have. There is a plentitude of energy available to us. And basically what we can do here is launch a operation. But the problem right now is that relative power is overwhelming. That's most likely because they have a larger fleet and everything else is the same. However, this is going to be a routine operation. It's not going to be difficult, so we can commence when ready. And basically what it does is as soon as we launch, it will automatically commence. We're actually going to unclick this for now so we can walk through the entire process. So let's launch this operation. It will cost us 4 energy a month and a 400 energy setup right now. So let's dive forward into the future to see how that progresses. So these empires, how could they defend themselves from being infiltrated? Well, they could have been a hive mind so that they get an inherent bonus to encryption, or they could have made sure that their communications to the galaxy at large was better protected by using ExpressVPN. That's right, every single signal that these aliens send out is being picked up by the Intergalactic Information Agency, and oh no, it looks like that Butt-Claw Cross from the Sin Hegemony was writing emails from their local space box. They're sending out messages that are really important and should really be sent over a secured line so that the agency can use their spy network to read them. But now it is too late. Of course, this is just a fictional scenario, and in real life you could be sitting in that cafe and sending sensitive information over an unsecured line, which is where ExpressVPN comes in. ExpressVPN encrypts all your network data and masks your IP address so you can navigate the internet safely and securely. Find out how you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by visiting expressvpn.com/ASpec or clicking the link in the description box below. So as soon as we get this pop-up called Gather Information, basically what it says is that we've completed their information gathering operation and we send a dossier detailing their findings. Basically, we will now understand what is going on in the Yenlot Combine and basically see what is going on. This will reduce our infiltration level, but because we are an empire spoked towards infiltration, it will allow us to see more things. As you can see right now, we will have a good idea of what is going on here with their economy. So basically what we can see now is their relative economical power, an idea of what their colonies look like, what their system look like, and the location of their civilian ships. And that allows us to gain initial information, which is really useful. So if we, for instance, go into their solar systems right now, we take a look here, we now have an idea of what their planets potentially look like. Size 14, it's not all that impressive. But still, we know where their capital is, and we know what is currently going on. Size 18, and it does look like that these guys may or may not be Necros. So that could be potentially an issue. And it basically builds up the story that we have behind this here empire, what they could potentially be up to. And we get another report coming in. Again, gathering information on another empire. We will now get information on the Sin Incorporated. But as you can see, we still don't have the information that we need just yet, which means the other operation was a lot more successful. And no doubt we will get another operation successful very shortly, and there it is, and we will get even more information here. So we can take a look at this empire, and once again we will see that we have an intelligence rating of 40, but we still don't have any idea of what is going on here. At this stage we will need to wait, because we need to increase our infiltration level so that we can do something more nefarious, such as preparing sleeper cells, which will allow us to do more updates in terms of intelligence. And we will just go down the list slowly over time and illustrate what everything does. Now, every so often you will come into a situation where your spy master will randomly create themselves an asset, will find themselves an asset in an alien empire. In this particular case, the Genlot Combine has found itself with somebody who is not too happy over there. And that basically means that they are going to be joining our cause. So they are in the Genlot Empire over here, which is in this here criminal megacorp, which is incredibly annoying because they've decided to put some criminal buildings on our planets. However, as you can see, we will now have an asset on the right side of the screen. And this is a hugely important thing because we can use those assets to boost our abilities on our operations. In this particular case, we can add additional things on manipulation as well as government, and those will all be specified in the side here. So for instance, sparking a diplomatic incident is something that we can use here. Stealing technology, not necessarily, but we can use them on other things. The thing is that we can boost our chances with our operatives in order to, get everything rolling. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing very soon. Right now, we are preparing sleeper cells on every single one of these planets because it will allow us to improve the infiltration level on those worlds. And in addition, it will allow our spy master to be reassigned at another location. So basically, the spy network will stay at its current level, and we will continue to know what is going on these worlds. We still don't know anything about their military, but we're slowly but steadily learning about what is going on. Right now, we've maxed out our intel, so we want to know what is going on in general. So let's take a look at what we can do with our asset once we've got enough spy level, or at least enough infiltration level, to do something more interesting. Now, Stellaris wouldn't be Stellaris if we didn't get random events popping up all the time, such as this particular one, because we are trying to put in sleeper cells. Basically, what's going on here is that our operatives may be at risk, and this is obviously a problem. This gives us a couple of options, whether or not the operatives are being panicked or something is going well. Now, these options by themselves do not really have a lot of impact in terms of diplomatic, in a diplomatic sense. So basically, we can just go ahead, and if we get set back, it's not the end of the world. Well, we got the positive one, which means that the difficulty has been decreased, and therefore we can do things more easily over time. We got really lucky here with having 3 whole empires to try things out on. Now, of course, there are going to be scenarios where the AI is trying to do things on you. Thankfully, if you have high encryption, they'll have a more difficult time to do so. But regardless, though, it looks like that these guys are trying to undermine our influence with another empire. We do get a bunch of unity for that, though, but we've been implicated into a plot, and in one day we'll find out what will actually happen. Still, though, with all of this stuff going on here, having even a minus modifier with one of these inside of a Federation, it's not the end of the world, because in the end, we just need to hegemon to like us. So these fine gentlemen next door have decided that they want to vassalize us, which means that in the near future, they may or may not attack. But thankfully, due to the endless efforts of the Intergalactic Information Agency, we can do some naughty things to them as well, because we have over 70 infiltration, which is the maximum amount that we can currently have on them, which means that we have full visibility on what their government is like, as well as a whole bunch of stuff on the rest of their empire. For instance, we know where their fleet powers are, as well as where their fleets are in general. So we have a good idea of what is going on due to the infiltration power of our species. Now, the bad thing is we do not have a fleet. However, we do have very strong infiltration, which means that instead of using hard power, we can use soft power. Now, what would be a good way of doing this? Well, we could do a whole slew of interesting things. We can spark a diplomatic incident, for instance, where all of a sudden, something embarrassing will happen in this empire. But sadly, because they're in a hegemon, it will not matter to anybody nearby. Preparing sleeper cells, we have already done this. Acquiring an asset would be very good for us to prepare for future stuff, such as sabotaging a starbase or arm a privateer. So getting an asset is probably a very good idea. We're going to do the same thing in all of the other empires as well. Thankfully, in one of them, I believe it is this one, yes, we already have an asset available, which means that we can do other things like extort favors. Now, favors is something that is part of the galactic community, so it's not all that relevant to us yet. So instead, we are going to arm some privateers. But oh no, it's a very expensive operation. It costs 3,600 bucks. So instead, we're just going to go ahead and flex our economical strength and sell off some of our resources to see whether or not we can actually do this operation. And yes, we can. Let's get some privateers rolling in this empire and see what will happen. Our operative should be attached to this, actually. We should have attached an operative, but we can, in the future, we can do that, so no worries about that. But basically, what we're doing now is we are getting privateers up and running in this empire. The real question is if this is going to work, considering they're a two-planet system. They don't really have a lot of space for these privateers to spawn, so this could potentially be a problem. In the meantime, though, whilst all of that stuff is happening, our empire is growing very, very rapidly, and we're basically spiraling out of control compared to the enemy, which is perfect for us because it means that they're locked inside. They've got a massive fleet that they have to upkeep, where as we are just running around with our operatives and taking things out. Right now, we're just waiting on our operatives to be done. Basically, we've got a breakthrough rating going on here, so it's only a question of time until we have something that will go well here. Now, as we're running this operation, stuff can happen, such as one of our operatives going rogue and joining the enemy. We can do all sorts of things, like, for instance, say, okay, we want to make sure that this succeeds, and we can disavow. If we disavow, it ends. It's over here. We can also go ahead and spend 20 influence, and if there is a, if the enemy has the ability to do a spy network against us, they would potentially find out. However, we're going to go and spend that influence and see whether or not anything will happen here. This could go very bad, but also very, very, very well. We just want to get those privateers up and running so we can mess with their economy. That is our main goal here. Now, whilst our operatives are toiling away down on this planet, I have just unlocked another thing that will boost our spy game. In our edicts, you will find the Bureau of Espionage. It is a early game technology that you can find, and basically what it will do is we'll give you additional envoys, because you can always use more envoys, and will also reduce operation difficulty and increase base spy intel. So we're going to go ahead and activate that and then take a look at our operation, which has currently failed apparently, which means we'll need to relaunch that. That is not much of a problem. So let's just do that. And basically we will continue doing operations in this here empire. Same thing with this place. We are slowly but steadily doing interesting stuff. Such as, for instance, we are just going to go ahead and steal some of their technology, because we've managed to get a couple of things here. For instance, here as well, we are just going to go ahead and, well, Let's acquire an asset, shall we? Once we have the money, that is. We can just quickly get that underway. And basically, we'll have a whole bunch of operations running pretty much all the time, because right now, we'll have a lot easier time to actually go ahead and do this. Thankfully, due to our encryption, we'll have a very easy time doing this. So sooner or later, we may actually be able to do some privateering. Ooh, an operative resurfaces. Yes, let's get an extraction team ready. Sooner or later, we'll have the ability to actually finish our operation, and it looks like we got ourselves some science. So, we got the Climate Control Network science by stealing technology from this here empire. And that is excellent, because it will give us a one-up against them. They are still economically and technologically similar to us, and their fleet is definitely more powerful than us. As we can see, we still got eyeballs on them at all time, and they can field significantly larger fleets than we can, especially with that Federation fleet hanging out there. So slowly but steadily, we can do stuff to them that is rather naughty. And the examples that we have here today are not necessarily the end of it. There are more examples that will become available over time, one of which I find really, really fun, and that is the Crisis Beacon. So let's take a quick look at what the Crisis Beacon actually is. Now here's a little safe game of a multiplayer match that I did over the weekend, and as you can see, well, the Unbidden have spawned right in the middle of my empire. This would be considered a bad time. However, not all is lost. We have the opportunity to do something against them right here. What is that, you may ask? Well, we have an infiltration level over here at our allies. They're a tributary of us. We don't really care about that. We are more interested in deflecting the Unbidden away from us. So what we can do here is we can go to our espionage, because of course we're spying on our tribute, and we activate a crisis beacon. It is extraordinarily expensive. It costs 6,400 energy, and that is of course a problem. Still though, we can easily do this, as we have a high level of stuff going on here, as we got a 90 level of intel. So we're just going to go ahead and launch that operation, and immediately you will see that their relative encryption is weak, and B, we know everything about them. So our operatives are now going to go ahead and move in to try to put a beacon down for the Unbidden to swarm to. The Unbidden themselves are already all the way on the move, and this is of course a problem. So let's quickly wait to see how this develops and see if our operatives can actually do something with this. Whilst the Unbidden have managed to eat one of my planets, thankfully my team is now on standby to lure the Unbidden into my tributaries' territory, which is exactly what we are going to let them do. They will start putting down a beacon as soon as we can, and let's hope that we're going to be in time in order to pull this off. They're looking pretty good so far, so let's check back in with them once they are up and running. And there you have it, the Unbidden have been paid off, so to speak. A beacon has been set up, and their ships are now en route to the Shariat system. One of the fleets will immediately move on its way, so we'll see whether or not they'll actually go there. It is the Stultus system they'll be going, so one of their fleets will now beeline over towards this area to be deflected, and that is exactly what we wanted. We wanted the Unbidden off of our doorstep, and that's exactly what is going to be happening right now. So it's a wise investment sometimes to do this, and in order to do all this stuff, it also means that you can be rather nefarious on the galactic map. And that right there is pretty much a generalized overview of how the whole system works. There's a bunch of other stuff. For instance, there is the enhanced surveillance technology that you can get, where you can get additional envoys and more encryption on your empire, but that is something that you can research for yourself over time. In the meantime, though, we're going to go and wrap things up here. I want to thank my good friends over at ExpressVPN for making this video possible, because if it wasn't for them, well, we'd be still on the bad side of the encryption cycle. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and remember, stay vigilant. They're listening.